All right, what's going on, fellas? We have returned for another deadlift day. It's gonna look the same as last week for the most part. I'm gonna do 5 rounds of every minute on the minute, hanging knees to elbows, which is my ab exercise right now. Very tried and true for me for just keeping my lower back feeling good. I shouldn't have gotten away from those. That's one of those, I've learned this lesson many times. Hopefully I'll only learn it a couple more times. It's good if I keep some variation of hanging leg raise as my ab motion for my primary deadlift day. Just keeps my back feeling nice. When I do them the next day, my low back fatigue feels relatively less for whatever reason. So we're gonna do 5 rounds of every minute on the minute. The nice part is I can kind of scratch that itch of novelty. I can get the kind of gains of novelty by rotating like how I load them. Sometimes it'll be a dumbbell between the feet with more of a knee raise. Sometimes it'll be body weight, more of a leg raise, every minute on the minute, total reps. There's a lot of different ways to program them, but the real thing that I like when self-coaching, you gotta find what things you can fiddle with and what you can't fiddle with. The thing I can't fiddle with is the exercise general category of movement. How I progress it really can be arbitrary when one kind of progression scheme runs dry or I get really mentally burnt on it. I can rotate to another and derive the same benefits because I'm not trying to be the best hanging leg raiser possible. I'm trying to get the benefits of that exercise for my deadlifting. Then we will move on to our deadlifts. Our top weight will be 7 plates today, so 675 pounds. 5 sounds nice. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, as we get closer to this contest, I'm gonna be carrying more and more fatigue from the event-specific training, but I don't feel terrible today. I don't feel good, but I don't feel terrible. Then we will have, assuming I feel good, 1 back offset of hopefully 5 reps at 6 plates. Then we'll move on to these SSB good mornings. And as I've been saying, goddamn, I can't wait till these are a squat, even if it's a belt squat for fatigue management reasons. I just want to squat twice a week and get big legs. It sounds sick. I want big, strong legs because I think they look fucking cool. I've also started including a little bit more lower limb training after talking to the guy that runs the gym in town, who's also my PT, Billy. He was saying that like, there's kind of some issues with my tib post, maybe tib and relating to these shin splints I get on the yoke. Maybe they're just not adequately prepared for the demand. So some combination of like plyometric work, specific training, and then just strength training for the lower limb. And what is strength training for the lower limb? It's calf raises with a bent knee, calf raises with a straight knee, dynamic plyometric type work like jump roping or pogo hops / bunny hops, whatever you want to call them, and tib and raises. So we're gonna start doing a little bit more lower limb training, which I'm always game to do because I think big legs are cool and big calves are part of having a strong whole lower body. So I'm all good with that. We're doing single leg. He's got a small variation for you to bias towards tib post ever so slightly. Does this matter? Not really. But that was to say I'm doing good mornings for a while longer. We're gonna ride it out.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
I'm getting stronger. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're getting stronger, keep going. And then you can wait for it to stop working to scratch that itch of trying something else. Then we have our standard cable rows. Looking forward to those, getting stronger every single week on those, and I'm feeling them in my deadlift. When I'm cracking it off the floor with the heavier weights, I can feel that difference in horizontal rowing strength. So I'm gonna keep my foot on the gas on those. I'm getting great returns. And then we have the seated hamstring curl machine, which also has been going quite good. Kind of establishing a baseline to beat each week, putting it up on the whiteboard over there, and then we're just beating the books. So I'm excited to get after it. I wanna deadlift a lot of weight. Come on. You gotta try harder than that. Come on. Come on. Give it some effort, Bubba. Show them your strength. Get them. Oh, so strong. All right, what's going on, fellas? I'm back for the voiceover. Before somebody leaves their standard comment like, oh, you're breathing pretty hard in that clip of me playing with my dog, you're goddamn right I am, bitch. I'm exercising. That was after my EMOM leg raises. People love leaving that you're breathing hard comment on videos of people lifting weights. It kind of weirds me out a little bit. But I'm also looking a bit foolish right now after that whole preamble about how, oh, it's working, so I'm sticking with the good mornings. It appears to have stopped working. This is the 2nd week in a row that my erectors were at a level of fatigue after my deadlifts where I could not do what I kind of deemed to be productive work on the good morning. Now, usually I'm pretty heavy-handed with this. if your body can't recover, train it to. We can train ourselves to recover from a wide variety of things. A lot of the time I'll do it anyway, but I don't really see this changing because the deadlifts are only going to get more rigorous from here. So we made that change. I did squats to pins today. Going to try to decide whether I'm going to do belt squats or squats to pins. A lot of it's going to depend on what I think will negatively impact my overhead event session tomorrow less, but looking like a bit of a goober. So that is what it is. Now working my way up on the deadlifts here, I'm making one error that I don't like. Also, as you can see, it rolled off the front of my kind of double mat platform. On that one, that's a bit of a forecast of what's to come, what I fucked up. And then I'm going to shut up here because I think last time people liked the no voiceover for the top set. So we're going to keep doing that. So for my down set, I decided to do just 5 plates for some beltless pauses. Very light for me, just working on my positioning. The pauses are a really good exercise for me because they kind of act as a positional audit, right? I can speed through light weights with poor positions just by ripping them off the ground without really being aware that I'm in poor positions until it gets really heavy. If I pause some lighter work, it kind of acts as a positional audit where it lets me know you're in a shit position. This is going to feel like shit. Fix it. So I do a lot of pauses on the way up and also pause my back downs because it's a nice self-limiting variation. And honestly, it keeps me more honest with the technique I would like to have with heavyweights with the lightweight. So it makes it more applicable and carry over a little bit better. The deadlift rolling off the front of the platform did throw me off a little bit and made that set just a little bit harder than I would like. But I'm still stoked. All-time rep PR. God golly, I can't bitch about that too much. Overall, the deadlifts are feeling more difficult than they actually are. That's a kind of a common phenomenon where fatigue will disproportionately affect your perceived difficulty more than it affects the actual difficulty. And that's why when you're in periods where you're training under fatigue, when you're supposed to be training under fatigue, you should consult your video when assessing the RPE of your set and take some amalgam of like your subjective RPE after racking it, whatever it looked like, and kind of take in between, because a lot of the time the video will be a little bit more objective than you when you're in a fatigued state. As I mentioned, these squats to pins always work good for me. I might do them on this session. I might belt squat. I'm going to have to sit down and think that through. Thankfully, it's kind of a no-lose situation. Both are good exercises for me. It's really just going to come down to what facilitates good event training tomorrow, because that kind of matters. I can't just completely bury myself on the deadlift day, which I would if I was only training for the deadlift, but not wise if I'm also prepping for a show. And then here's me having something to say. I don't remember what I had to say, but apparently I talked to the camera at some point. All right, we're into the assistance work, which for me is the rowing and the hamstring curls. Just 2 motions. As a semi-large athlete, that's always a weird thing for like, I conceptualize myself as a very small person compared to the people that I compete against, because I'm 5'10", and I weigh about 260 pounds, which by open strongman standards is about as small as they make them, because anything less than that, you're cutting to 230. So in my head, I'm very small. I forget that when I started lifting and I weighed like 145, 150, I would consider it a very large person. So as a relatively larger, higher weight class athlete, moving maybe greater absolute tonnages, the number of assistance work looks different than it used to earlier in my career. Talked about that a lot. So I've got 2 assistance motions, whereas that used to be 4 a lot of the time. For portions, I will drop back to the 4 if the main work is easier for periods of the year, of course. These things vary. But yeah, I'm gassed as fuck. Those deadlifts, it rolled off the edge, which made that set a little harder than I wanted it to be. Realized I did a down set with pauses. Realized my erectors were definitely too fried to do productive good mornings. So we did some squats to pins, which is just a great exercise for me. I'm fried, I'm tired, my back is pumped, I'm exhausted, and it'd be really easy to be like, well, I did my assistance work. Just doing the assistance work at this point is not enough. You need to really give it all you got. That's where like the horsepower comes from. This other stuff is getting really technically refined. It's getting your CNS in gear, but that raw horsepower is generally something shared by the athletes that really give their assistance work hell. And frankly, to deadlift 880, I'm gonna need to look a little bit more like someone that could deadlift 880 raw. Maybe I look like I could deadlift 880 in a suit if I got real good with it, but I don't look like a guy who could deadlift 880 raw yet. So I gotta fix that if I wanna deadlift 880 raw. I need a bigger back, I need bigger hamstrings. So gonna kind of sit down for a sec, get my head right, and really give these accessories what for, because I wanna be strong and I better fucking act like it and give each set everything I've got because I want to be strong. So one of the big things I wanted to fix on the session was how long it was taking. Switched to training at home, that went well. Did the 5-minute EMOM as kind of a general warm-up as well as to get my abs out of the way early. These things cut down on the session time, trying to eat as quickly as I can after the session, making sure I do my cool down walk. All of these things have just kind of optimized this Friday deadlift session to where I feel less shitty the next day and I'm able to perform well. Everything is kind of going up on the whiteboard. I'm beating the books on these assistance movements that time and tested for me have worked quite well. I was making some form errors on my main deadlifts. Even though they're getting stronger, they feel a little heavy, but that's kind of more fatigue than anything else. But I was definitely making some errors that I think showed up on that top set. I personally do what I call a dynamic look point, where up until the pull gets to my knee, I generally look at a single point. Let's just call it 6 feet, 7 feet ahead of me on the floor. And then as soon as it passes my knee, I allow my eyes to rise to straight forward, never looking above that kind of direct vertical plane, horizontal plane. And I've always had the best luck with this kind of dynamic look point, but I've also had a very bad habit of when kind of doing speedy warm-up reps like a dickhead, I will just leave that look point down for the second half of the pull. And that's something I did for most of my training career. And it wasn't the end of the world, but I think it reinforced poor mechanics for how I was locking out. And I definitely felt like I was a bit disconnected from the bar for the upper half of those heavy pulls, for whatever that might mean to you guys. It's just kind of a sensation that I know what it means. I think more pauses on the way up and more attention paid to that variable look point will help me stay more connected to the weight, try to lock out with my lower body predominantly, rather than lock out with this very erector heavy lockout. Generally, the lower body is going to be stronger than the upper body, so we want to do as much work as we can like that. I do really want to get some spotter arms. I have the Rogue belt squat, and Brian Shaw and then also Lucas Hatton did them for his prep for the Arnold UK, have done these belt squat rack pulls where you just have the belt squat on, add some additional resistance for your glutes. I don't know. I'm just curious. Maybe it would help with that kind of staying connected to the bar, but more than likely the solution is preserving my positions off the floor better. And then rows felt good. Getting stronger every week on those. Hamstring curls felt good. For a cheap machine, this thing actually treats me quite well. I think it's like an X Mark Fitness seated hamstring curl. I've kind of modified it a little bit so that way the strength curve isn't just weightless at the top, really heavy at the bottom. I kind of adjusted with a metal pipe I installed, the fact that the arc kind of
goes up across that midline, so the heaviest point's kind of midway rather than the heaviest points at the top and the bottom has no resistance. That was a really good kind of modification that maybe at some point I'll show how to do it. I think you could probably do it with the Titan one that's very similarly built. And then showing you guys my super cool protocol of immediately eating my 2 Uncrustables. If you're not American, I guess you guys might not have these. They're just pre-made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I get the grape jelly one. Usually after most of my training sessions, I will eat my standard kind of bowl of meat, rice, veggie, and then I'll have either a banana, some orange juice, or an orange, my standard meals. I'll just eat a standard meal after training. But after my really heavy lower days, sometimes my really rigorous event days, I have no appetite whatsoever. So that switches to a shake with some protein from whey, some carb powder, and then 2 to 3 of these Uncrustables. Just because it's easy to eat. And then I hop right on the treadmill for my cool down. As I mentioned last week, just doing some walking on the treadmill really helps to loosen up my hips, and I feel a lot better the next day. I put a 0 incline. Usually I'm a big believer that if I'm going to walk on the treadmill, it's an incline to make the difficulty more like walking in real life, where you have to propel yourself forward. On the treadmill, you don't have to do that. So we use the incline to make it kind of more applicable. I'm a big believer on hands never putting on the thing, because then you kind of negate some of the incline. I throw all that out the window here. This is not supposed to be difficult in any way. It's just meant to get my hips moving. And if you guys liked the video, please drop a like. It seems to make a big difference if I put the reminder. I'm going to put the reminder at the end, so the true, faithful jock mode viewers are the only ones that have to hear it. I don't like putting it at the beginning. That's kind of whatever. Also, before I forget to mention, on the channel Patreon, thank you to the members on there. There's not much on there. There's just that program. I do try to answer all training related questions on there for whatever that's worth. They added like a Discord type group chat feature. So if you're on there and you don't check it often because mine's fucking empty, check it out. We got a little group chat going. I intend to answer questions there if you want to send them in the group chat, or if you want to send them to me directly. I do try to get back to people that message me on Instagram, but my inbox has been getting crazy full. A bunch of things have been getting sent to spam. I do my best. I don't want to be like, oh, I'll only answer questions if you pay me. That's not the case, but I'm doing my best to keep up. It's just getting a little bit hard, which I guess is a good problem to have. Thank you guys for watching my video. I appreciate you boys as always.